All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a tool that, well, it's not just a tool anymore, is it? It's a verb. We're talking about Zoom and how it went from being this simple app born out of a founder's long-distance relationship woes to a global utility, and for a minute there, the symbol of a world on lockdown. So how in the world did one company in the span of a single year go from a pretty beloved app to an absolute global lifeline, then to public enemy number one, and somehow back again? That's the story we're diving into. Zoom's insane rise, its almost fatal crisis, and its big fight to reinvent itself in a world it pretty much helped create. You know, every great company seems to start with a real problem. And for Zoom, that problem wasn't cooked up in some stuffy boardroom. Nope. It started with something we can all kind of relate to, the struggle of a long-distance relationship. Yeah, that's right. The founder, Eric Yuan, used to take these grueling 10-hour train rides each way just to see his girlfriend back in college in China. And you can imagine, after a few of those 20-hour round trips, he started thinking there has to be a better way. This wasn't about finding a business opportunity. It was personal. He just wanted to see his girlfriend's face without spending nearly a full day on a train. And here's the kicker. Eric didn't just come up with this idea out of nowhere. He was one of the founding engineers at WebEx. He spent over a decade building the very product he was about to go up against. He knew exactly what was wrong with it from the inside out. He kept telling the leadership at Cisco, who'd bought WebEx, hey, this thing is clunky, we need to rebuild it. But they wouldn't listen. So he did something pretty gutsy. He walked away in 2011 and convinced a whole bunch of his top engineers to come with him and start from scratch. So, okay, how does a little startup go up against absolute giants like Cisco and Microsoft? I mean, you're not going to outspend them on marketing, right? You're not going to have more features. No, they did it with an almost obsessive focus on one simple idea. And this right here tells you everything you need to know. Just look at the mission statements. Zoom's is so simple. Make video communications frictionless. 4 words. That's it. It's not just a slogan. It's basically a command to every single person at the company. Now look at Cisco's. It's the kind of corporate mission statement you see everywhere, full of jargon. That difference, that was the whole ballgame. And you can see that focus paying off big time. And I want to be clear, this is before 2020, before the pandemic. Zoom was already on a rocket ship, growing its customer base by an incredible 876%. WebEx, just 91. The market was already telling them loud and clear, we want simple, we want what works, long before we all needed it. So what was their secret weapon? It was so simple, but so smart. They had a really good free version, the 40-minute limit. This meant the product sold itself. You'd use it for a meeting, it would just work, even if your internet was kind of spotty. And you'd be like, wow, this is way better than that other thing. Then you tell your friends, your colleagues. It spread like wildfire. If you were used to calls that dropped all the time, Zoom felt like magic. And then 2020 happened. The entire world changed, basically overnight. And this little company, built on this simple idea of making connections easier, suddenly found itself at the very heart of, everything. Now, heading into 2020, Zoom was already doing great. They were a successful tech company with about 10 million people using it every day. And back then, in December 2019, that was a huge number. But absolutely nothing could have prepared them, or any of us really, for what was coming next. Get this. They went from 10 million daily users to 300 million in 4 months. That's a 30 times increase. I mean, it's just a staggering number. In the blink of an eye, Zoom went from being a handy business tool to being the essential plumbing for society, for work, for school, for doctor's visits, for birthdays, everything. But here's the thing about that kind of explosive growth. It always comes with a price. That sudden, intense global spotlight, it was like a giant magnifying glass held over the company, and it showed every single crack, every single flaw. The dream of connecting the world, it very quickly became a total nightmare. And suddenly, a new word entered our vocabulary: Zoom bombing. And the crazy part is, the thing that made Zoom so vulnerable was the very thing that made it so popular. It was just too easy to use. No default passwords, no waiting rooms. If you had the meeting link, you were in. That frictionless design that had been their biggest strength was now, officially, their biggest weakness. And then the bad news just started piling up. it was relentless. We're talking FBI warnings, lawsuits for sharing data, huge companies like SpaceX and Google banning it, New York City schools, even state attorneys general started launching investigations. I mean, it was a full-blown five-alarm fire of a security crisis. So how do you even begin to fix that? Well, it had to start at the top. And to his credit, Eric Yuan got out there and just admitted it. He said, "We messed up." He basically said that in their rush to make everything easy and frictionless, they totally dropped the ball on privacy and security. For a CEO to say that right at the peak of their company's fame, that was a huge deal, and it was exactly what needed to happen. Okay, but saying sorry is one thing. Actually fixing it is another. To save the company, they had to do more than just apologize. They needed a complete overhaul, not just of the app, but of their entire way of thinking. And they did something radical. Look at this plan. The very first step, freeze all new features. Now, for a tech company growing as fast as they were, that is almost unheard of. It's like a shark stopping swimming. But they did it. They put a full stop on everything else and put every single engineer on one job: fix security and privacy. It was a massive bet the company kind of move. But this wasn't just about plugging leaks in the boat. This whole crisis forced them to think bigger. The leadership realized that to survive in the long run, after the pandemic, Zoom couldn't just be that video call app. No, it had to become a whole platform, a central hub for how we work. And this right here shows you that pivot in action. Look at 2019. Zoom was basically meetings and webinars, pretty simple. Now look at the list today. Phone, team chat, mail and calendar, an AI companion, a contact center, the list goes on. They are aggressively building out a whole suite of tools. They're not just taking on WebEx anymore, they're going straight after the big dogs, Microsoft and Google. So after all that, the crazy growth, the public crisis, the huge reinvention, where does that leave Zoom today? Because let's be honest, the world is a very different and much more crowded place now. Well, Wall Street is totally split on what's next for Zoom. The optimists, the bulls, they look at this new platform and especially the AI features and they think, yep, this is going to lock in big corporate customers and drive a whole new wave of growth. But the pessimists, the bears, they're saying, nope, the party's over. They see giants like Microsoft Teams and Google Meet, which are often just bundled in for free. And they think that competition is just going to crush Zoom's profit margins. And yeah, this number kind of tells the story, doesn't it? The stock price is down nearly 85% from its peak in 2020. I mean, all that pandemic hype has completely vanished. The stock has come crashing back to reality. And that reflects the world we live in now: hybrid work and a brutal knockdown, drag-out fight for every single customer. And that brings us to the big question, the one that really matters now. Look, Zoom became a household name, a verb, because it solved that original problem. It made connecting with people easy, frictionless. But now we're entering a whole new world, a world where AI is about to change everything about remote work, with automatic meeting summaries, smart assistants, you name it. So is just being easy still enough? Zoom managed to survive a crisis that would have killed most companies. They pivoted from a tool to a platform. But now they face maybe their biggest challenge of all. Can they actually innovate and lead in this new AI-powered era, an era they helped create? The next chapter of their story, well, it's still being written.